As speculations turn into fury, there is currently an outcry on the internet. Have they poisoned Kirk Frost? A very confidential medical source has made alarming new claims that Kirk's strange sickness wasn't natural at all, stated that they had discovered evidence of a rare, slow-acting toxin in his system. The catch is that they believe it was caused by a close friend or family member, rather than by food or medication. Many of the fans who have been following Kirk and Rashida for years are startled, breaking down interviews, examining old footage, and searching for anything they could have missed, because if this is true, if someone really wants Kirk gone, the question is, who is motivated, and even more disturbingly, how long have they been planning this? Some are criticizing ex-lovers, some are concentrating on rivals in the business sector, and some are even posing the unthinkable question, was Rashida involved in this video? We're analyzing the whole period, the emotions of hospital shock fans, and the horrifying information that has the potential to fundamentally change how we view Kirk and his close group. Is betrayal at its most heinous level, so get ready for more than just drama. It all began with a spooky silence that surrounded Kirk Frost's normally vibrant online image. The man who was always posting and appearing, too, without any public appearances or Instagram posts, the events came to a sudden close. Almost immediately, fans began asking, "Where's Kirk?" Initially assuming it was just another hiatus, it wasn't exactly right, but stars steal the show. Rashida shared a single tale with a picture of a gloomy hospital hallway and the words "pray." Rashida is known for sharing too much with her fans. A blurry picture of Kirk being rushed into a medical room with his eyes closed and his body limp started to circulate online a day after one phrase sent shockwaves through the community. Most likely, a hospital staff member unleashed it. Nurses and fans were shocked, and blobs caught on right away. In the comments, there were rumors that it was a heart attack, while some speculated that it was a stroke. But no one could have predicted what would happen when a blogger known for disclosing insider information about celebrities released according to an unnamed nurse who said that Kirk had been poisoned rather than just falling. Doctors discovered evidence of a hazardous material in his blood. The toxin was delayed, rare, and intentional rather than something you would receive from a typical dosage. Suggested deliberate poisoning. Something that was progressively administered in little doses rather than something you would accidentally ingest. The blog said that doctors were shocked by the quantities in his system and that internal tests confirmed it wasn't food poisoning or a recreational drug, was ethylene glycol, a very accurate substance frequently found in antifreeze. It is deadly, odorless, and has a sweet flavor that is easily missed in food or beverages. The social fallout was disastrous. Fans were incensed and horrified, and while people demanded answers, hashtags like #PrayFork, #KirkFrostPoisoned, and #HashWattedest started trending on Twitter. Rashida's quiet was the loudest, which surprised me. The comment section below that post became a battleground, with some followers expressing support, some demanding the truth, and many outright blaming her. She didn't post for 2 days in a row after the photo was leaked, before ultimately remarking, "This is a difficult time. Please give us privacy." Suspicions were heightened by Kirk's cousin Malik's late-night posting and removal of an enigmatic Facebook status message, and people weren't very kind. The response said, "Why so quiet? You always post everything. Now your man is dying and you're just asking for privacy. It sounds off. You try to warn someone that not everyone who smiles in their face is a friend, but the poison comes with a kiss," Malik wrote at the time. Fans pre-shot the post before he could take it down, and people were talking about it on social media within minutes, wondering things like, was Malik blaming others? Or was the family already suspicious? The drama increased as another part of the mystery was disclosed that Tony, Kirk's long-standing business partner, stated in an unexpected Instagram Live. Kirk was like a brother. We built so much together, and yet he was going through some stuff. But never in a million years did I think Tony was obviously touched. He paused, then said something unsettling. And the strangest part is that he told me a week ago that he felt like someone was watching him, saying that he had been sick for weeks and thought maybe someone was watching him. This is how someone would try to remove him. What was even more disturbing was that Kirk had reportedly told a friend that he intended to amend his will. And someone close to the family leaked that Kirk had recently mentioned removing someone from his life. Fans were shocked to learn that Kirk had suspected something was wrong, but no one paid attention as rumors circulated. People began assembling a dangerous puzzle to determine who had the motive and who stood to benefit from Kirk's death. But as they dug deeper, their focus shifted to Rashida, the one person who had remained silent. They found something odd about their recent history. Instead of supporting Rashida's solo pursuits, Kirk and Rashida had been less visible together for the preceding 2 months. No date nights, no joint business presentations, nothing. Then the voicemail came. A woman named Tasha, posing as Rashida's old secretary, had messaged a popular online gossip site. Was this a coincidence, or was she getting ready for life without Kirk? I was with them for over a year, and there were constant arguments, she said. Rashida argued that Kirk couldn't just up and leave when they had brand partnerships in place. But Kirk was thinking about it and told me that he wanted to move to Miami and escape the spotlight. At one point, she screamed that if he left, she would be devastated. Tasha did not respond when asked if she thought Rashida was responsible for the poisoning. But her hesitation became apparent soon when an unnamed former employee at one of their enterprises came forward. Kirk had been complaining of feeling weird for weeks before his breakdown. According to the statement, every time he ate at home, he felt sick afterward. He joked that maybe his wife was trying to kill him. The internet has taken over, and even though it was spoken in the most fair way, it now has a sinister connotation. Podcasts have analyzed the timing in detail, and blogs have made news about it. Fans are certain that something is wrong, not just concerned. In a moving live broadcast, one of Kirk's best pals from childhood eventually started crying. The implication was clear. And when he asserted that Kirk was too smart to fall for something random if he was poisoned, the comment sections exploded. Again, it came from someone who had access to him and knew his daily schedule, named Rashida. But a hospital source disclosed that Kirk had briefly regained consciousness as the pressure grew. He had opened his eyes and could say a few words, but it was not a full recovery. It's initial. He passed out again after someone asked who did this. Medical personnel rushed in. The family allegedly stared in wonder. And the room reportedly became silent. But those 3 words started a chain of events that resembled the greatest surprise was yet to come. Kirk would have asked who had attacked him if he had truly believed it. This would have demonstrated that it was more than just paranoia. Rather, it was sincere fans seeking justice, clarification, and accountability. One witness said that Rashida began crying immediately after the words reverberated like a curse through the hospital hallways, and those around Kirk's bedside froze, unable to comprehend what had just been said. The first thing Kirk thought of as he spoke after nearly 4 days in a coma was betrayal, the kind that only comes from fear. And others thought it looked like regret. But whatever the truth was, the timing of those words couldn't have been more explosive, according to sources. Only family members were allowed to visit Kirk's room after medical staff reportedly blocked it off after he was hurt by someone nearby, with Rashida being the first to be allowed to return. Not what she expected, Kirk became quite unhappy when Rashida entered the room, tugging at cables and trying to sit up, and his pulse rate jumped. According to a nurse who asked not to be named, who said she heard him scream something like, "Get her out." Even though the words were slurred, Rashida's face was pale and quivering as she was quickly led away. However, the tale didn't stay inside the hospital walls for long because the nurse's report was leaked. And people weren't merely speculating, they were convinced Rashida was involved. The story took a dark turn as videos surfaced on YouTube and TikTok, each one dissecting every word, gesture, and moment prior to Kirk's hospitalization. The creators pulled old Love and Hip Hop footage to highlight moments where Rashida seemed distant. Rashida tried to mend the damage by sharing a video of herself sitting in a candlelit room with her eyes swollen and her voice shaking. You guys have no idea whether it was bitter or not. A video that Kirk had accused her of holding onto for too long reappeared, and fans were now interpreting it as a murder mystery. Kirk is my husband, and I love him and would never do anything to hurt him, she said, but the comments weren't kind. They called it crocodile tears and said the video looked too staged and rehearsed. One comment went viral, claiming she was crying as if she were trying to win an Oscar, while others pointed out that there was no reference to the poisoning. There was only a general request for calm and no mention of the rumors. But when the police stepped in, things became even worse. Local reports state that doctors were legally required to report the poisoning as soon as the test results indicated foul play, meaning detectives were now formally Kirk's oldest son was the first to be seen entering the station, where he apparently waited for more than 2 hours, and when he emerged, he escaped. News quickly spread that investigators had begun interviewing family members while Kirk's case was being probed in the largest leak yet. Kirk allegedly told a family friend who asked not to be named that he had been preparing to meet with a lawyer to update his will weeks before the event, adding, "If anything happens to me, don't trust the people closest to me." Rashida stopped posting completely within minutes of the comment going viral when it was picked up by news outlets and podcasts. A previously unmentioned name, Kirk's niece, Tamika Sutley, joined the conversation while supporters were pointing fingers, although she had always been close to him and often managed his firm's backstage operations. Some people started forming relationships that didn't entirely make sense. According to a nurse, Tamika became irate and yelled, "He needs to tell me where he hid the damn papers," when medical staff told her to leave. Late at night, long past visiting hours, Tamika had been seen coming to the hospital when security was called and she was taken. Many wondered if Kirk's near-death experience was indeed connected to internal disputes over his estate, his musical career, real estate holdings, and business endeavors. Kerr remained in and out of consciousness during the course of the examination, apparently experiencing periods of clarity but feeling unwell. Rumors circulated that Kirk's recent clashes with a number of people had resulted in their exclusion from future transactions, which was no little matter, and the timing of everything started to appear too deliberate and opportune, enough to provide a full statement. But the police were gathering evidence as they awaited his testimony. A delivery ticket found in the kitchen garbage of the Frost home provided a crucial lead. It showed an online order for a complex cleaning solution that contained the same chemical found in Kirk's blood. The item arrived weeks before Kirk's death, and it had been signed for by someone with access to the residence, but the signature was smeared. Fans went into full detective mode once that information was released, inspecting the kitchen's counters and searching through old recordings for any cleaning products that might have been in the background, transformed into a virtual crime scene. And Rashida was once again the unifying factor in all of this chaos. The public had decided that she was guilty until proven innocent, whether that was fair or not, but Rashida wasn't alone. Snakes move in silence. You think you know blood, and then they show you who they really are, Kirk's brother Dion said in an enigmatic video that he uploaded from outside the hospital while he was being investigated. Despite his refusal to provide names or reasons, fans jumped on it and began conjecturing. There were too many elements to the puzzle. For every new post simply made things worse. While some people thought it was about Rashida, others conjectured that DM might be talking about Tamika, or even Tony, Kirk's business partner. The local television station then received an anonymous tip that sought to get the Frost home surveillance footage released. According to reports, the video, which was not yet released to the public, shows Kirk and someone fighting in his kitchen the night before he fainted. According to the source, Kirk shouted, "You've been putting things in my food." The other person said, "You always think someone is out to get you." maybe you're just paranoid. The footage shows that Kirk was found the next morning, still asleep in bed, was sincere and had the potential to reveal the whole story, but Kirk's health remained vulnerable. Even though he was stable, doctors determined that his liver and kidneys had been severely damaged, and even if he survived, there might be long-term problems. The family was urged to get ready for difficult decisions, and Kirk's medical team made it clear that this was a deliberate poisoning and that there was not much time to spend in figuring out who was responsible. As emotions were running high, trust was broken, and secrets were revealed. Everyone's concern was no longer only about who. The strain on Kirk's family grew more intense as his illness deteriorated. Because of the leaks, the rumors, and the possibility that Kirk's inner circle was implicated, nobody was safe from suspicion, the ensuing fallout, or the impending revelation of the truth. This was the extent of the betrayal. Accusations. Everything was unraveling. Once united in front of the cameras, the Frost family was now divided by the most ruthless of forces. They had no idea who they could trust, and more importantly, Kirk had no idea who he could trust in the event that he ever regained the strength to recognize the criminal. Still in disbelief over the viral video, Rashida was in dire need of clarification. She had been in the hospital for days in the hopes of getting well. But her followers weren't giving up, and every day felt like a fresh blow to her emotional stability. Comments flooded in whenever she went out or shared something on social media. Not only did the fans begin to turn away from her after suspecting her of being involved in Kirk's poisoning, but even Kirk's circle members who had previously been friendly with her grew suspicious and found it difficult to look her in the eye without suspicion hanging over them. A police report was another shocking revelation. Amid all of this, an unidentified insider claimed that Kirk's blood samples had been tested again, with far more concerning results this time. Examination revealed signs of a drug that is frequently used in high-level assassinations in addition to the initial poison. How did well-known Kirk wind up ingesting such a rare and dangerous chemical as is seen in espionage cases? The media was rocked by this news, and reporters and experts couldn't stop talking about it. They wondered why Kirk would be singled out in this way, and who would have access to such substances. Rashida's situation was further exacerbated by the media hysteria, as she was now charged with both concealing and participating in the poisoning. She received severe criticism each time she tried to voice her opinions. Did someone in his inner circle use their connections to destroy him for their own benefit, or was it a professional job to bring him down? Rebuttals: the public's perception was already established, and the stress was so intense that she kept to herself and only permitted close family members to see her during this difficult period. As the stories circulated, some fans began to question whether Kirk's own family had been involved in a convoluted scheme to take over his niece. Tamika Kirk was featured in a number of leaked recordings, including one that showed her and Kirk fighting angrily just days before the event. The worst aspect of the shaky video was when Kirk was seen staring at her. Someone who was clearly upset stated, "Tamika, you're always there when things go wrong. What's really going on with you?" Tom spoke in a composed tone, but however, fans were unconvinced and found the interaction amusing. Not long later, Tama's social media profiles remained silent due to an unforeseen circumstance that further upset the balance. Firm, "Nothing is going on. Stop being paranoid," she said. Fans speculated that she was either hiding or, worse, had been silenced. And her total disappearance, no posts, stories, or updates for days only fueled the growing conspiracy theories. The moment this was too much of a coincidence, and the media picked it up right away. Given that Tama had all but vanished, it was unclear if she had run away, she had contributed to Kirk's poisoning, and if so, why she was now remaining silent. While Tama was receiving a lot of attention from the public, another occurrence that, according to a shocking accusation made by a former Kirk employee who worked closely with him on several business ventures. Kirk had been talking about a big betrayal for weeks before the poisoning, because he had Since the former employee revealed that someone close to him was going to hurt him. He told me it wasn't about money, it was about power. He was afraid of losing control over his life, his career, and everything he had worked for. The former employee said, this revelation triggered a flood of speculation about who was trying to take control of Kirk's life, Tamika Rashida Dion, or someone else entirely, as police officers had begun to piece together a worrying timeline of his health difficulties by this point, quickly deteriorating after a particularly heated argument with a relative just a few days before he became ill. The dispute, which purportedly arose during a family gathering, concerned Kirk's financial dealings. Others, with knowledge of the situation, said that Kirk was getting ready to break off relations with Kirk, made plans to safeguard himself emotionally and financially while the police carried out their investigation. It seemed that he had now reached a breaking point, as the gap between him and some family members and the number of people he had formerly trusted had been growing for months. They turned to the people who had known Kirk the best during his final days. Dee had appeared positive in public, but there were whispers of his own financial troubles, and Dion, Kirk's brother, was one of the first suspects to be questioned. Had Dion been as desperate as others to exert control over Kirk's alpha? He was known to have taken part in some of Kirk's commercial activities. There were no concrete documents that showed how involved he was. As the Frost family was being divided up, the police began investigating his money to determine the cause. With Kirk's mother having during the entire experience, she remained silent, but in a rare interview, she suddenly revealed how startled and shocked she was by her son's fate. She said, "Kirk is a good man," in a broken voice. "I don't know who could do something like this to him. He loved his family. He would never hurt them." Anyone. Viewers started to wonder, though, if Kirk's own mother had been forced to betray him when additional details became public. Her statements alone could not stop the growing suspicion. Then came the startling disclosure that no one had expected. A phone conversation from an unknown number was leaked to the media, and Kirk was heard, barely able to speak, saying, "I know who did this, but I can't say it yet." Before the tape died, media outlets and fans scrambled to interpret Kirk's final remarks. Was Kirk aware of the person who caused the poisoning? Had he worked it out before? Why hadn't he given names? If so, was he defending someone? Or did he simply lack the strength to do so? The family was under increasing strain. Suspicions were turning into accusations. The trust that had once supported their relationships was dissolving, and the whispers were growing more intense every day. It was impossible for anyone to hide the truth forever. Who had poisoned Kirk? Why? And who sought to gain from his death were remaining unanswered issues. More information emerged as the investigation went on. But one thing was clear. As Kirk's health continued to deteriorate and public fear of him escalated, everyone had something to hide, was unable to tolerate the gossip and the mounting stress on his family. Every move they made was attentively observed, and every statement they made was perverted to sound more sinister. Kirk was barely surviving, and the police investigation was coming closer to the truth, but no one could foresee what they would discover next: maelstrom of gossip, treachery, and an unbreakable web of falsehoods. And just when the family thought they had hit their lowest point, they were completely upended by a shocking new revelation. A new witness declared that they had witnessed something significant. The night Kirk was poisoned, on the days before Kirk's breakdown, Tamika's friend revealed something startling that nobody had expected. She had been behaving oddly and was always in a hurry, as though she had something to hide. "I witnessed her leaving Kurt's." The witness said, "Evidence was sent that she was at home late at night with a man I had never seen before and clearly worried about something." The witness's account was enough to have detectives reevaluate Tamika's location that night, leading to further suspicions about her involvement. Was she the one who poisoned Kirk? Or was she just a player in a broader scheme? A detailed analysis of Tamika's social media accounts revealed a series of enigmatic posts in the weeks before Kirk's poisoning. And the more police probed the man she had been seen with, the more they learned that she had been hiding something in one of Kirk's posts. She wrote, "Sometimes it's better to keep your enemies close," seemingly hinting at a family dispute. Fans and investigators alike were left wondering, was Tamika trying to communicate with them? To make matters worse, there was still another shocking discovery. Dion, Kirk's brother, was compelled to when police discovered that Dion had taken large amounts of money out of Kirk's personal accounts several times in the weeks before Kirk's fall. The timing was highly suspect and quickly raised suspicions that Dion was involved in a series of odd transactions that fit him in the public eye. Dion's lawyer quickly denied any wrongdoing Dion had committed, but investigators were probing Dion's finances more thoroughly than anyone had expected. And the picture that emerged was more complicated than anyone had expected. Kirk's poisoning had led him to embezzle money from his brother, and now he saw the chance to kill him. There is no proof at all that he was involved in Kirk's tragic illness. The lawyer, who has been Kurt's faithful brother for years, declared at a press conference that these allegations are unfounded. But the public wasn't convinced, as the investigation centered on Kirk's inner circle. Rashida found that media outlets and fans began to question Dion's motives, with some even accusing him of trying to use his brother's problem to seize Kirk's resources and influence. She had already been blamed for Kirk's illness, and the charges were beginning to wear on her. The media's fixation on her role only intensified, and cameras followed her everywhere she went, perversely presenting her as the villain. Rashida's emotions were running high amid all the chaos, with her family, friends, and even her own fans beginning to mistrust her after she was said to have poisoned her husband and been involved in a larger scheme to take over his life. She was angry, hurt, and terrified all at once, and she needed to correct the record and tell her side of the story, but nothing she did seemed to stop the tidal wave of negativity that swept over her. It appeared that fighting back was her only option. In a tearful interview with a popular TV host, Rashida finally discussed the accusations and the pain she had been through. "I never wanted this to happen," she said, her voice trembling. "I love Kirk with all my heart, and I would never hurt him. Nobody is more heartbroken, more significant than I am right now. But it's not just about me. It's about our family and our future. We need to stick together and find the truth." Her remarks were straightforward and honest, but they didn't have the impact she wanted. Instead, fans as Rashida fought to clear her name. Kirk's health began to deteriorate dramatically after weeks of silence from doctors, and both critics and others remained doubtful, with some even accusing her of using Kirk's near-death experience to gain sympathy. The media had painted her as guilty, and no amount of pleading would change that. The doctors were cautiously optimistic, but warned that Kirk's road to recovery would be long and uncertain during this time. And even though he was still unable to speak or move independently when his condition was ultimately stabilized, it was a miracle he was still alive. Rounds of interrogation, Kirk looked exhausted but coherent in one of the few interviews he was able to conduct. "And I knew who he was, despite his damaged health." Investigators were determined to get the information they needed to identify Kirk's poisoner and would not rest until they did. The comments sent shockwaves through the audience. "Done this," in a barely audible whisper, "but I can't say it yet." Kirk knew who his attacker was, but why couldn't he say it? Was he scared to name the media, supporters, and others? It seemed that the truth was still just out of reach, and the drama surrounding Kirk's poisoning was far from ended. Theories regarding Kirk's poisoning continued, with some supposing that the attack was motivated by Kirk's financial situation, and others guessing that as the investigation went on, it became clear that the situation was much more complicated than anyone had thought. Yet the most crucial question remained: who was responsible for Kirk's poisoning? It was something more personal, perhaps a betrayal from someone he had trusted. But the drama, lies, and secrets were all building to something catastrophic. And when would the truth come out? Family conflict only seemed to become worse as Kirk recovered. The investigation into Kirk Frost's poisoning continued, and the startling accusations against Kirk's sister-in-law Tamika had left everyone in disarray. But just when they believed they had reached a breaking point, a shocking twist of events happened. Kirk, who was still barely awake, managed to utter something that would send the entire family into a tailspin again. Tamika wasn't the one who did it. As he spoke, the audience fell silent, and his remarks signaled not only a confession, but also a complete shift in the investigation's trajectory. Since Tamika had been all, though Kirk was suspected of poisoning her own brother-in-law, the case was turned around by his confession. The doctors rushed to Kirk's side, attempting to understand his words as his breath came in short spurts, wondering who he was blaming now and what he meant by someone else. Though the mystery deepened with each passing second, everyone in the room was desperate for answers. As she listened from the corner of the room, Tamika's face became white. Was Kirk simply hallucinating from the trauma, or was his body weak and his eyes clouded with uncertainty? Rashida was in emotional distress and had been dealing with the stress of Kirk's health while striving to keep her husband alive and protect her family. Was this a desperate attempt to cover her tracks, or was she actually framed? Once again, the family had to pick up the pieces. She asked the physicians for comfort after the media frenzy and this new revelation. What does this mean? Her voice broke with passion as she questioned, "Is this really happening? And who is Kirk?" Referring to the only comfort the doctors could offer was that Kirk's condition remained unstable and that it was hard to tell if his claims were true or the result of his weaker condition. But the harm had already been done. Kirk's recent admission was quickly the subject of news as the media became aware of it. Fans were horrified by the new revelation of Kirk Frost's poisoner, and Kirk's family was shocked by his stunning confession. In the meanwhile, Tomikashi was forced to defend herself again, but this time she felt more pressure than ever. "I promised on my life that I did not poison Kirk, even though I'm devastated by everything that's happened," she said in a sobbing interview, denying any involvement. "In Kirk's poisoning, some of the accusations I just can't explain." The public's reaction was split, and her words didn't seem to convince everyone. Despite the fact that her pain was clear and her tears were sincere, others trusted Kirk, especially after his startling comments, while others stuck with Tama and chastised her for a misunderstanding. But did the other members of the household start to suspect that something more serious was happening? For instance, Rashida was distraught. She had previously been dot. After Kirk's recent comments fanned the flames, Rashida, who had previously been blamed by the media and her supporters for contributing to Kirk's slide, was more desperate than ever to uncover the truth. "I know Kirk, and I know my family," she added in a tearful interview with a local television station. He would, as the investigation progressed, more surprises were to come, and authorities started investigating Kirk's business dealings. "I'm still trying to understand what's going on. But I'd never accuse someone without reason." Kirk had always been a successful businessman. But like many in the entertainment business, he had a lot of enemies. And the more they found out, the more they realized that there were a lot of people who wanted to hurt Kirk. It seemed that family members weren't the only ones with secrets. And then the bombshell arrived. When Kirk's accounts were routinely reviewed, investigators found a series of strange transactions in which Kirk had been transferring large amounts of money to an unnamed account that had nothing to do with any family members or business associates. The amounts were suspiciously large in the weeks before Kirk's illness. Who was behind these transactions? And could they be connected to the poisoning? The media immediately seized on this new information, asking questions like, did Kirk have a secret lover? Who was behind these mysterious payments? The headlines shouted some, while some speculated that Kirk had been in a secret relationship. Others wondered whether he had been blackmailed or if these mysterious payments were an indication that he had poisoned Tamika, who was once again in the news even though she had nothing to do with the payments she turned down. Any connection? But now that people were beginning to question whether she had been hiding something, Could Tamika have been protecting someone? Else, if she had known about the payments and had kept them a secret for personal reasons? The more questions that came to light, the more the family became divided. Rashida, meanwhile, was in a state of unbelievably. Everything seemed to be falling apart despite her best efforts to keep the family together. Kirk was still fighting for his life. The media was scrutinizing every detail of their lives. She was always on the defensive, being asked about the latest happenings, and she had to say, "I'm just trying." As the investigation went on and the family began to piece things together, each new piece of evidence seemed to point to a deeper conspiracy that no one had ever imagined possible. Kirk's poisoning was no coincidence. She told the media tearfully, "I don't have all the answers, but I'm not giving up on Kirk." It was no longer just about one person's betrayal. It was a family drama of epic proportions involving money, secrets, and lies. And as Kirk battled for his life, it became clear that the truth was anything but simple. The poisoner Kirk had not been found yet. But his poisoning was affecting everyone around him. The family was shattered. Their relationships were irrevocably damaged. Trust was destroyed, and no one knew who to turn to next. While Kirk's fight for survival continued, the family struggle was just getting started. You've seen the unexpected turns, dramatic collapses, and horrific charges surrounding Kirk Frost's unexplained poisoning. From Tamika's weeping denials to Kirk Frost's death, but with eerie words that rocked the world. Only time would tell who would emerge victorious in this twisted drama. Entire family. This story has become something no one saw coming. And the truth remains buried beneath layers of deceit, bewilderment, and pain. But what do you think truly happened with Kirk's realization? Is this a real breakthrough or just a hallucination caused by his fragile state? Do you believe Tamika is innocent? Or might she be hiding something darker? Do those strange financial transactions point to a secret plot? Please provide your thoughts in the comments area. If you are pulling the strings from the shadows, who do you believe wanted Kirk to leave? And what do you believe the real story behind this tangled plot is? And why your opinions matter? And you might even observe the small detail that everyone please. Click the like button if the story's surprising turn surprised you, so we can provide you many more amazing stories like this one. And don't forget to turn on notifications and subscribe, since there are still secrets to be solved. And the story isn't yet complete. You won't want to miss a single update. We're following each interview, lead, and every clue until the complete truth is known. Soiling the world of celebrity, family, and betrayal. Nothing is ever what it seems. So pay close attention, remain curious, and never stop observing. It seems